Hello and welcome back to CQ, the AWS Certification Quiz Show, where we're here to help you get prepped for your next AWS exam. So today I have with me Nathan. Nathan, tell us a bit about what you do here at AWS.
Morning MJ, thank you for having me. My name is Nathan. I'm one of the practice managers here in AWS. I work for the professional services line of business. Specifically, my team looks after the financial services customers here in Australia. So we work with banks, insurers, payments companies, and we really help our customers work out how to take their regulated workloads and operate them effectively and securely on AWS.
So just a small, minor job that you hold, no?
Indeed, yes.
Tell us a bit about what's going on in your customers right now. What's exciting? What's buzzy?
Ooh, so over the last year, there's been a change in the way that the regulator here in Australia views cloud. Previously, they were quite conservative. They had some quite strong guidance around operating what we call extreme risk and system of record workloads in AWS. And what that means is things that are considered like core banking platforms or things that that move money around the economy are considered too risky to run on AWS. So what's happened recently in the last 6 months is we've seen that change from the regulator say their appetite's changed and they're now starting to become more friendly towards cloud, which has created amazing opportunities for our banking customers. One, you can help them save money and operate in a lower cost base. Two, provide a lot more agility in the way that they can create new services to bring new products to market. And three, most importantly, that old cheesy innovation piece helps them to go build new products faster, more efficiently, fail early, fail fast, and learn from those experiments.
Awesome. Sounds pretty exciting. Tell us where you have dropped us in today, Nate, our final episode of season 1 of CQ, actually. I know, it's a bit sad.
I'm sad that it's over for the year, but excited that I'm your last guest.
Okay.
So we are today in the amazing Japan. So we're north of Japan of the island of Hokkaido. And behind us is the amazing dormant volcano called Mount Yotei.
It's beautiful. I love this picture, Nathan.
Yeah, thank you. So this is where one of the places that I love to go visit each year.
Like you do.
Amazing skiing, some of the best in the world. It's considered like the northern hemisphere, but it's obviously nice and close to Australia, where I'm from. But what's specifically amazing about this place is you get between 15 and 20 meters of snow a year, which is amazing for so close to being in Australia.
Nice.
So, yeah.
Well,
Awesome.
Thank you for being here. Thank you for providing our picture. More importantly, are you ready to take us through some associate level solution architect exam questions today?
Let's do it.
So producer John has provided our questions for our last episode after some hilarious ones we got last week. Let's see how we go today. Ready for question 1?
Of course. Ooh.
VPC. We always ease our guests in easy. Don't panic. Take a breath.
Okay,
let's do it. Which of the following is true about security groups? Security
groups on VPC, so our virtual private connections that allow us to provide security across AWS resources. So all instances in the same security group can communicate with each other. So that's interesting. So security groups can be configured in that way.
Okay.
But if we look at the question is which of the following is true about?
Yep.
Yeah. Okay. So let's question mark that one. Security groups always permit all outbound traffic. The one great thing about security groups being an important feature with our services is security groups can be configured for both ways, inbound and outbound traffic.
Yep.
So I don't think it's that one, MJ.
No, I agree. Yeah. I know this might surprise you, but I agree with you, Nathan.
Each Amazon EC2 instance can only have one security group. So that definitely would not be a good feature of our platform if that was true. So I don't think that
I'd be a bit worried.
I would be a little bit worried.
And the poll has just gone up. I was actually just about to check in. I know we've got a few 4s. Anyone who's already voted for this question, please re-vote because the poll's only just got up. Apologies for that. What about number 4?
Number 4 looks very good.
It looks nice, doesn't it?
Security groups are associated with ENIs.
Which are?
Elastic network interfaces, ones that can be spun up and spun down. I am going to go with number 4, please, MJ.
We got a 50-50 split on the poll at the minute. Exciting time. So they've gone between 1 and 4. And to be fair, you did say 1 would work.
Yep.
Yes.
It could work.
Happy with your answer? Going to stick with number 4.
You make me nervous now, MJ.
That's what I'm here for.
Okay, I'm going to go with number 4.
Locking in number 4. Let's close that poll. Great start. You're off.
Awesome.
To a great start.
Woo.
Okay. All right, let's move on to question number 2. Oh, I just changed the wrong question.
Oh.
S3. I was like, that doesn't match. We're up to S3.
So
okay. Come on.
So
We got this. You have several gigabytes of data that you wish to upload to an Amazon S3 bucket on a regular basis across continents. How could you transfer this data to at the highest possible speed?
Well, what's interesting, MJ, we see a lot of customers, particularly in my patch in the financial services group, as well as some of our other media and entertainment customers, do quite a lot of this. So one of the reasons why you do it is for high availability, as well as being able to move and archive data into things like Glacier.
Cool. So this is a common
It's a very common
occurrence.
use case.
Okay, got it.
Yeah. So, so a good example is, you need to move, if you kind of think about AWS regions and AZs as being kind of synonymous with existing data centers, sometimes...
Yeah, because we've got to think outside the box here, right? It's only saying continents.
Yes.
So, okay.
So if you think
Good
about
pickup.
what a lot of our multinationals do, is they want to be able to move content around really fast.
Yep.
And one of the most effective ways to do that is to use Amazon's core backbone network to move content between data centers.
Cool.
So if you have a look at this question here, it says, how could you transfer this data at the highest possible speed? I think that's a good indicator of what we want to do. Of course, we can go punch stuff over the internet, and old dirty dog networking people like me obviously want to do it the easiest way, but in this case, we're looking for a highest possible speed.
So we want an AWS network, right?
We would love to go use the AWS network. So a good example, if I think about some of the customers that I work with, multinationals in particular, want to move things around like data sets or common file sets to make available for applications. So I think if we go through each of the questions, the answers individually, so enable transfer acceleration on a bucket is a very good option in this case.
I like it. Okay, but let's check out all of them. Best tip of the day, always make sure you go through all the answers, right?
No, you're right. Although I am that kind of bias for action kind of guy.
You wouldn't even look at the rest.
But I think in this case, I should probably check. So
let's do that.
So upload the data via CloudFront. So CloudFront's one of our CDN services. It's a great way to get data to the edge for
access rather than upload.
Correct.
Yep.
So that is a good indicator. That may not be the right answer. Use Athena to compress the data into Parquet format. So Athena is a good streaming data service. Probably not the highest possible speed one. So I'd scrub that one out. Transfer data via Snowball. So Snowball is one of my favorite services when we're doing data exfil from a customer's data center if they're going through a mass migration program of work. Snowball's a great service. You can go take like one big fat chunky set of disks and then go put your data on it. It gets trucked out into one of the AWS data centers and all the data sucked in. If everyone that's on the Twitch channel, if you go to a Google, you can see that we've got in the continental US, there are these like huge trucks that we use that you can like back up against the data center with a big fat cable. And they use that as a good way to exfil.
Awesome.
Now, if you look at the question again, moving across continents
and speed,
I'd love to see us go drive a semi-trailer, over the Atlantic and into maybe like Tokyo, where
I just feel like it wouldn't be that fast.
It wouldn't be as fast, and I think water on electrical equipment's not a good thing.
Great point.
I reckon, MJ, we should lock in number 1.
Most people have gone with you on the polls, Nate. So let's lock that in and close that poll. And the answer is, of course, 2
amazing.
of 2.
Woo.
Feeling a bit better?
Starting to sweat a bit.
Can you breathe?
Tension's on.
You were going a bit blue, so let's breathe.
This is hard. This is stressing me.
No, don't be silly. This is our last episode. Have fun. Well, not last ever, just prior to reInvent, actually. So if you want to check CQ out at reInvent this year, please do.
Look for us.
Look for us, that's right.
We'll be there.
All right, security. Ready?
Security. Okay.
You wish to create a separate Amazon EC2 application environment for dev and production.
Yes.
How can you ensure that Amazon EC2 instances in the dev environment cannot interact with instances in the production environment? Awesome.
Very, very good question.
I assume you've seen this?
I have seen this
Nice.
many times. So
Few
this
times.
is actually what we consider best practice. So for a couple of different reasons. One, you need to give the developers and the SysOps DevOps teams enough control in the test environments, or specifically dev test,
Yep.
as well as kind of training accounts, non-prod and prod. And one of the things that we recommend is really about applying different security groups, different security instances, and providing different IAM policies and controls across different phases as you move applications through the pipeline. For two key reasons, right? Number one, in the development environment, you are going to need a little bit more flexibility to go play around and test and change some things around.
Yep.
But what you don't want to do is you want to limit the blast radius of any issues that pop up. So things like if you're replicating data between databases, you want to isolate that. You don't want to do a select all, delete all records from blah,
Yep.
and have that then replicate in a prod. It could be pretty bad for a bank. You don't want to vaporize everyone's deposits sitting in their accounts. So it's really important that you do limit the way that you separate out resources. So
Cool.
one of the easiest ways that we can do that is by ensuring that we put different policies and controls across. So let's go have a look at the answers here. So
quick check on the poll. At the minute, it's split between 2 and 3. All right. So let's check them out.
Very good, very good.
Yeah?
Okay, all right. So let's just have a quick look at the question again, just so we kind of understand the bits that we're
Pick out the
looking for.
keywords. Yep.
How can you ensure that EC2 instances in the dev environment cannot interact with instances in the prod environment?
Yep.
So the poll is pretty good, hey. So there's definitely a couple of different mechanisms that we can use to do that. So there's, and I guess the bit that we're really looking for here is ensure that they can't interact, right? So use tags to identify dev and prod resources. That's a good way to, if we're looking at assigning cost to different lines of business, you can use tags to do that. But we're not providing wholesale separation to maximize how we control the interaction of those resources. So I'd probably say number one, as the poll suggests, probably isn't a good idea. Number two, use separate subnets for dev and prod. Look, it's an option, but if we think about we could go create API gateways. We can definitely go create routing table ways to go through and create that. So a creative dev could work around that as an option. Definitely possible, but probably I would say not the ideal scenario. VPCs are a great way to go through and isolate resources. So they provide hard separation at layer 1 and layer 2 and prevent interaction between different services.
Yep.
I just want to double check number 4 though, because security groups are a good way to go through and isolate services.
Okay.
I am going to go with, though, I think, MJ, I'm going to go separate VPCs for dev and prod environments, please.
Which has just topped on the polls as well. So let's close
I'm
down
going
that
to
poll.
go crowdsource.
So is this your
Lock it in.
answer or is it our viewers'
No.
answer?
It's definitely my humble opinion.
Okay, cool. Let us reveal question 3 answer is indeed number 3.
3-3.
All right. Are we finally going to get a question wrong in this season?
Oh,
I feel like we might be.
I don't want to be the guy that MJ, you go, hey, look, in last season, this guy that came on last, he did start off well, but just couldn't
fell
finish.
apart.
He just went to custard.
It could be from this next question. Auto-scaling.
Ooh, auto-scaling is actually one of my favorite topics.
See, now you've started high. You can only
I know.
drop from there. Let's do it. Let's do it.
Auto-scaling. Can I read the question, MJ?
You know what? Why not? Feel free.
No,
you're going to read it from the screen.
What happens to an Amazon EC2 instance in an auto-scaling group that fails a health check when the health check type is ELB?
You got this?
I do. Okay, all right.
So tell us, what does a
auto-scale.
health check do? What are the other types of health checks? Let's start with that.
So health checks are a way to verify that instance is operating the way it should. So things like doing protocol checks, uptime. There's availability. There's a number of different ways of doing it. Autoscale is a great way as well that, particularly with my customers, they use it as a mechanism to kind of burst up for peaky workloads. So In some of our investment banking customers, one of the things that they do is they use Autoscale as a way to do things like looking at how much money they have in their account to make a trade, to make sure they're compliant with their risk tolerance and their risk appetite.
Perfect.
So one of the ways that they do that is they have certain algorithms that'll look at things like, is this trade that we're about to go place, does that fall within, the type of stock or bond that we want to buy or sell? And one of the ways that we do that is they run this like high scale algorithm. So they'll burst out into grid, into our high performance computing infrastructure. And we use Autoscale as a mechanism to do that. So once we see certain things change or we see certain inbound volumes change, we can then fire up another AMI or another instance to be able to go calculate that.
I can really tell Autoscaling is genuinely your favourite topic.
My passion, man. And the reason why autoscaling is so important, right, is it prevents like the headroom that you would normally, it would prevent, you hitting a cap in a traditional on-premise server environment.
Yep.
Now, there are a couple of catches with Autoscale that trips people up. And it actually comes down to these first three answers around what that instant does.
Well, that's interesting because on the polls, number 4 is the most popular at the minute. Let's work through.
Yeah, look, I am not sure if well, I guess look, it's let's go through the.
Let's do that.
Yeah. Okay, all right. The instance is rebooted.
Yes.
So why would you want to reboot an instance? It's the old, if it's not working, quickly reboot it, see if it comes back up.
We did that
on
earlier today.
mics. So probably not I don't think it's the right mechanism.
Let's get rid of number 1.
Yeah. So number 1, we'll shoot. The instance is hibernated. So you only want to hibernate instances where you want to maintain statefulness of what that EC2 instance is doing. So I don't think it's the right answer in this case. The instance is terminated. Now, one of the benefits that you get with Autoscale, is, which the first two don't cover, is Autoscale gives you the ability to go back to per hour, per unit, per second billing, right? So when you have an instance rebooted or you have an instance that's hibernated, one of the challenges that you get here is that you've still got that billing piece going. So you actually don't take advantage of the scalability and the billing mechanisms together. So if we think about what we want to actually happen when we enact a health check failure, is we actually want to terminate that instance. We don't care about statefulness. We don't care about rebooting it. We'll just fire up another AMI as part of the ELB. So for me, I'm going to go with number 3. I'm going to go with the minority of the crowdsource on the poll.
You are indeed again.
Remove the instances removed from the Autoscale group. Really doesn't align to the way that Autoscale should work. So for me, MJ, I want to lock in. I'm going to go against the crowd at the moment with option number 3 being the. I want to call it like the donkey that's last in the race. Oh, it's just gotten to 50%. We've got it's a split now. Now I'm feeling nervous. I'm going to go with number 3.
You're going to go with
lock
number
it in.
3. Are you sure?
Yes, I'm sure.
This is your favourite subject.
I know.
You started with that sentence.
The pressure is killing me, MJ. I gotta go with,
all right, let's lock in number 3 and close that poll. Phew. I would have loved it if you got that one wrong.
Yes, so the reason why you don't always use Autoscale is if you've got certain applications that require statefulness, right? Like you don't want to terminate an instance that's running in Autoscale if it's actually got to go return a result. Because what will happen is, if I'm trying to work out, you're trying to take money out of your bank account, we go terminate that EC2 instance, you keep the money and me as the bank's just lost a pile of cash. So it's really important that you know how those instances interact and how they operate and what triggers certain events.
Awesome. Thanks for that, Nath, especially the extra information. We did have a quick question on the poll, and the question is, are we going to do any professional level exams on CQ? So basically, we haven't as yet because the professional questions are a lot longer than we can fit on our screen, but we're trying to find a workaround around it for season 2.
You could just TLDR, the question.
Let's get Nath back in. Help you write in those, producer John. But we did run a special episode at Sydney Summit Live this year with Glenn Gore, and he gave them a shot. It did prove very hard, but we are working on it. And also for season 2, we will hopefully finally get our first Dev Cert episode as well. So we've been dying to do that.
Very cool.
So we'll get Gerardo back in to look at that with us. So thanks for the questions. Keep them coming if anyone else has any. Meanwhile, let's move on to question number 5. You've had a good breather now, so I feel like you've got to nail it.
All right.
All right?
Give me the question,
I
MJ.
am. Here we go. Your organization has a policy that AWS CloudTrail must always remain activated. How can this policy be implemented with the least administrative effort?
Okay, really important.
Yeah.
So people always enable CloudTrail, always enable CloudWatch. If you ever want to know what's happening in your environment, if you're going to go trigger certain events off a CloudTrail event, so if you want to use stateless functions like in Lambda to do something when you see a policy violation, please enable CloudTrail. It's a very important service. It will help you fix all sorts of stuff. Now, one of the things that we see that's quite cool happening at the moment in the banking environment across pretty much everywhere is we're seeing kind of back to that dev test question around how do you separate and isolate environments. One of the things that we're seeing more and more is organizations are looking for mechanisms to be able to provide detective and corrective controls in their environment. So people, please do not enable public S3 buckets. Just the console now tells you, do you really want to do this? And then it says again, do you really want to do it? The answer is no, you never want to do it. But, developers, a little bit lazy sometimes, go off, just go make things easier. This is a great example of what you can use CloudTrail for. And what we're seeing more and more in the banking environment is that for certain policies that you want to be able to implement organizational wide, so organization, lots of accounts underneath, and then shared account structures underneath that, you want to be able to have one place that you can apply a policy all the way through. And what we see is that in the banking environment, we use CloudTrail and CloudWatch as a mechanism that when you detect something, you can use guard duty then to kick in to do something with that event. So a good example that we're seeing more and more is that we'll have certain IAM policies that are applied, and when they're violated because a developer wants to go, doesn't know or does something against that policy, we use CloudTrail as a mechanism to be able to detect that and then trigger a Lambda function to override that policy. So one of the things for everyone that's on this channel, I definitely go check out in detail the CloudTrail, CloudWatch, and guard duty functions, and really have a look at what you can do for detective and preventative controls, and using this as a mechanism to do that.
We'll get a link put in the chat for you from Producer John for that. That'd be great.
Okay, so how can this policy be implemented with the least administrative effort? So create a deny policy on the CloudTrail service linked role. It's not exactly easy.
No.
And if I kind of give the example, for a lot of the customers that I look after, most banks in the kind of top end of town, top global top 100 banks, they normally have anywhere between like 1,000 and 2,000 like applications that face the us as consumers and drive revenue. So if in this particular case, if you think that for 2,000 applications there's 4 accounts, developer account, dev test, non-prod and prod, could you imagine trying to attach that policy to the best part of like 10,000 accounts? Like, it doesn't scale, right? So I'm going to go with not number 1.
As per everyone on the poll, what about number 2?
Good. Number 2,
got a couple of votes for number 2.
Okay. Ensure that all users do not have permission to use CloudTrail. Now, what we really want is we want the accounts to be able to use CloudTrail. So what we want to be able to do is apply that policy so that we get all those events and they're logged. So if there is a security breach, please enable CloudTrail, enable CloudWatch, enable guard duty.
What was that? Enable what?
So what we want to be able to see is we want to be able to do something with those events, right? So what we actually do want to do is we want to make sure that it's enabled everywhere. What we want to be able to do is ensure that the users, can't make those changes. So do we enable it on an account basis, or do we, enable it at a higher order level? I'm going to say I don't love number 2, but I just want to go through the other question.
No worries. Let's check out number 3. Number 3 also has 0 votes at the minute.
Configure AWS CloudTrail global setting is always on. Okay, but users may be able to go in there, use the API, go switch that off. I think that's a bad idea. But if we have a look at number 4, create an SCP, a service control policy in AWS organizations. It's also a good chance to go talk about Control Tower that's coming through as well. Control Tower allows us to go set SCPs, config rules, and templates at the top level of an organization, and ensure that we kind of federate that all the way down through the accounts and shared account structure.
Cool.
One other plug. We can go put a link in there into the Twitch channel as well. Go check out Enterprise Landing Zone Design for everyone. If you want to kind of know how accounts and shared accounts and organizations interoperate. There's a lot of really good information around doing this. My advice is get this set up once, do it well, so that way you don't have to spend a lot of time consolidating policies and IAM and roles across multiple accounts.
Yep.
MJ, I think...
I think I know where you're leaning, just putting it out there.
I'm just leaning. I'm going to lean towards number 4, MJ.
87% of the poll agrees with you.
I think the people on the channel are pretty clever.
John, we need to work on your questions being harder, I feel. All right, ready?
You might need another co-host, though.
Well, we got to reinvent now. So, number 4.
Lock it in. Lock it in, MJ.
Number 4 it is. And do you want to remind everyone what you want them to enable?
I don't know if anyone picked up on it, but I'm just going to say one more time, CloudWatch, CloudTrail, Guard Duty. Please.
Super important. And I reckon we got time for one more question. Should we do it? Yes. Okay, let's do it. EC2.
EC2.
Come on, an easy one for you. Your organization is running a distributed application across 7 Amazon EC2 instances.
Oof.
Yeah, to improve availability, you wish to place the instances across distinct hardware to reduce correlated failures. How would you configure this?
That is a great question. So the first thing I want to say, party people, is go serverless. One of the things that we'll see that hardware always fails. As much as I love, I am also a dirty dog sysadmin. Used to love my servers. Used to love plugging cables in, flashing blinking lights. Also get distracted very easy. In a data center is really hard for me. But hardware inevitably fails. So one of the things that that you do need to look at is placement groups and where you decide that goes, and how you distribute hardware. Your instances around. Again. Check out Lambda, go serverless, go containers. Try to migrate your apps out of EC2 sooner than later, because it'll help you work around how we do this. Now, as I look at all of the answers here, use a dedicated host. Dedicated host obviously says that this EC2 instance is onto this physical server. It ain't going to help you with failures. In fact, it's actually going to give you, it's going to increase your mean time to failure rate, so it's probably not a good idea. Use dedicated instances. Well, it's also not going to help you, because it's actually just now spreading a number of instances on the same physical hardware. So probably not going to help us solve this. Use a spread placement group like peanut butter across AZs, just spread your instances. Very good option. Put each instance in a different availability zone. This kind of comes back to my earlier point around serverless and containerless and not having to worry about where you put things. Number 4 is a very good option, but the challenge here is that it requires you to do it manually.
Yep.
So MJ, I'm going to go with number 3.
Locking in number 3.
Number 3.
You also got the majority vote on the online poll as well.
These guys are good on this Twitch channel. You really you just know how to pick
Well, this is episode 18. That's 18 weeks worth of content.
Ooh.
Yeah. All right, let's reveal the final answer. Number 3, it is. Nath, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you, MJ, for having us.
Of the season. It was a great way to finish.
Hokkaido.
Like I said, we will be on a break for a wee while now. We will be back in the first week of December live at reInvent. So please come check us out, especially if you are actually there. We'd love to see you and meet some of our viewers. Take care. We will be working on more content and more episodes for the next season. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, guys.
Bye now.
Thank you, MJ.